I'm Becky Fawcett, a mom by adoption, an infertile blonde, a female founder, and an entrepreneur. I never do the same thing twice for the intro of my podcast, except to tell you that for most of my life, I tried to be perfect. This might tie into the book we're going to talk about today. And I really tried to do what everybody else was doing and what I thought was expected of me. And then I tried to have children. And that's my plot twist. Didn't really work as planned. Now I look for any opportunity to be different. I'm an outspoken advocate who wants to change the world. It gets me into a little trouble sometimes, but for the most part, it helps me make real connections with real people. Today is a true example of that. Welcome to my podcast, The Fawcett Report, and I'm so glad you're here. I got my start in my career in magazines, and I've always been drawn to magazines over the years. My biggest regret, if I could say that, is that I did not start in New York magazines. My guest today is my friend Meaghan Murphy, who is the editor-in-chief of Women's Day and the former executive editor of Good Housekeeping. You've probably seen her on the Today Show where she's a regular, and she's an Emmy-winning host. Also, the author of this book, Your Fully Charged Life, which I've now read twice. It's so good. And Oprah Daily says that this book will make you feel good at every turn, which it really does. She's going to tell you about her 10,000 steps in a weighted vest to her life as a breast cancer survivor and mom of three. Meaghan, I'm so happy you're here. You are the yay in everybody's day, and our world needs that right now. So thank you for coming on.
Yay, thank you for having me.
I wanted to talk to you first about this book, which the cover says it all. For those of you who are listening, it is neon orange with neon yellow and her signature lightning bolt, which I know all of us now send you. Yeah, there it is on your wrist. We all send you lightning bolt things. I think I've sent you a sweater or shoes I saw one time. Like you now just get these texts from people and messages on Instagram. But tell me about this book and where it came from and why it was so important for you to write this.
Sure. So my book is called Your Fully Charged Life. It came out, believe it or not, I am celebrating the 5-year anniversary. So the hard copy came out 5 years ago. The paperback came out a year after that. And now celebrating 5 years, which is insane to me. I feel like time really flew. But the book for me, I think of it as a happiness handbook. And it's what some of the tools and tips and tricks that helped me to live differently. I started my journey as a troubled teenager with the nickname Grumpy. I had some tumultuous teen years, very angsty, in and out of hospitalizations for an eating disorder, lost my best friend tragically, and struggled quite a bit. And then through lots of therapy and lots of work, I became a fully functioning human. I wasn't really happy, but I was like out of the depths of despair and no longer in a hospital bed. And I went to college and started my career in magazines. And eventually I was at Cosmopolitan magazine where I was assigned to write a story called The 7 Secrets of Happiness. And in the magazine industry, sometimes those stories are reverse engineered. So you're like, this is the cover line, The 7 Secrets of Happiness. Now go and figure out what the heck that story is. It's kind of how it works. So I had this job of figuring out what are those 7 secrets of happiness? And this was pre-Google, pre-internet. I had to like call researchers and call psychology departments at leading colleges. And I discovered the work of Dr. Martin Seligman and his PERMA theory of wellness. And if you don't know Dr. Seligman, he was the founding father of the positive psychology movement. This guy's pretty cool. In like the late 90s, he looked at the field of psychology and said, you know, we do this good job of looking at what's wrong with people and fixing it. But what if we did the reverse? What if we looked at what was right with happy people and tried to emulate those core characteristics? And that's really where positive psychology started. And when I was reading his work, that really resonated with me. What if there were things we could actually do? Because I'm a type A doer. There's things I could do to actually be happy. Wow. Well, what if I started to do some of those things? And that's exactly what I set out to do, practicing gratitude, really relishing key relationships, being a part of my community, having purpose, all of these things. And I really did begin to live differently. And when my father was very ill, I lost him to pancreatic cancer. when he was in chemotherapy. I was sitting with him one day and we were talking about how he wanted to be remembered. And in that same breath, how I wanted to be remembered. And I had transformed from somebody named Grumpy, nicknamed Neggy Meggy, to somebody who really prioritized positivity and lived with more optimism and joy. And like in that chemo session, we said, he challenged me, like, well, make that in book form your legacy. Challenge accepted. Like, and after he passed, I was on a mission to find an agent, to get the proposal written, and to get a book deal. And I sure as heck did.
It's amazing. And I want to say that when I read this, and I actually just had a call with a friend on Sunday, which is just funny how there's no accidents in life. And she said something about this time in my life. I was talking to her about a time, and she goes, "You were so angry. I didn't want to talk to you
Yeah.
during that time." Well, she was talking back to when I was struggling with infertility and it wasn't working. And I was spending all this money, which has now led to my adopting my 2 kids and my career and helping others, so there's the yay. But
Yeah.
in the moment, I said to her and I go, "But I wasn't angry at you, and you left me." And I was angry at what was happening, and I felt like I wasn't allowed to be angry in that moment. And I think there's so many people you talk about in the stories and examples you give in here, how a lot of us have messy middles. And sometimes we don't talk about it because it's not allowable. As my friend told me, it wasn't allowable for me to be
Yeah.
angry.
But the other
How do we
piece of
deal
that
with
is,
that? Yeah.
yeah, so let's think about your friend, right? Like your friend created a boundary for herself.
Yeah.
Like this negative energy, this anger is impacting me. And I need to avoid this negative energy right now to protect my own self. And
But she
so
didn't tell me at the time. She just
she might
left
not have
me.
had, yeah,
And that's what I was saying. We're such good
yeah.
friends. I said, let's hash this out now, right?
Yeah, but I mean, maybe she didn't have the
Yeah.
words in the moment, but just knew like I
Yeah.
have to protect myself.
Yeah.
And like it sucks that she didn't show up for you, but she did show up for herself, perhaps.
Yes.
And
Yes.
like I try to give people that grace. I don't know what anyone else is going through. And sure, I can be disappointed when people don't show up for me, but I have to show up for me. That's the most important.
And I will tell you this, I felt so terrible in that moment when she was saying that. And you're right, she protected herself. You're absolutely right. But I felt badly because
Yeah.
I had no idea that's how it
Yeah.
was perceived. You
But
know what
the
I
other
mean?
And the other beauty of that is being able to have difficult conversations, and I often talk about that, like, the
Yeah.
fact that's a true friendship, that when you
Yeah.
can have that difficult conversation, "You didn't show up for me, your energy was toxic for me in that
Yeah.
moment, but now we're friends." That's
Right.
beautiful, right?
Yeah.
And you have to respect when someone is able to establish a boundary. I get it. I had a really good friend. I had reverse fertility issues. I had a very good friend who had to block me on Instagram, couldn't be near me in
Right.
those moments.
Yeah.
And did I understand it at the time? No. Did I understand why she shut me out? No. But subsequently, when we were able to have this difficult conversation of, hey, I was struggling with fertility, I couldn't watch you popping out
Yeah.
babies. Wow. And we're now friends back,
Yeah.
close friends again to this
Which
day.
is
But
great.
I couldn't see that.
And that's what I talk about this a lot in my advocacy work because I think we were not trained. No one had the tools to talk about that exact situation that you're
Mhm.
talking about.
Yeah.
And I don't think you're lucky. I'll say it right back to you. You're lucky your friendship came back because a lot of people
Yeah.
don't get that back. And you talk about this in the book of tackling these hard issues and coming up with the yay. And I love that. I think that watching you do your yay list and your posts on Instagram where you will find the most simple moment and turn it into a big moment. Like you write something in your book about celebrating everything. And I
Yeah.
love that. I love that. You celebrate every little moment instead of saying, we do Christmas and Thanksgiving.
Everything I do is essentially I'm hacking gratitude, right? Because if we really were to look at it, fundamentally, gratitude is the secret sauce in life. We know from a scientific perspective, if that you are grounded in gratitude, if you pause to actually appreciate what is good in your life, the gifts that you have been given, then that is the antidote for almost anything, right? You're not going to feel FOMO. You're not going to worry about
Right.
missing out because you already have enough. Like gratitude is the secret sauce. But for me, the practice of I'm going to keep a gratitude diary and I'm going to write down what I'm grateful for, that didn't work. I had to fun filter that process for myself. So, one of the ways that I practice gratitude, because I know it is one of the secrets to happiness, is by finding the yay in every day. And that is this very simple practice of pausing and being like, hey, let me notice what is good in the world. Let me notice what's good in my life today, because it's very easy to dwell on the negative. We're hardwired for that. That is our primal instinct, is to look for
Yeah.
the danger and avoid it. But what if instead we welcome in those little micro joys and those yays and embrace them and share them?
The gratitude thing. So I did start, I don't know how many years ago, a few years ago, that you mentioned it in the book, the starting your day off by writing down 10 things you're grateful for. Now, it doesn't always happen in the morning for me. Yesterday it was last night, and it doesn't happen every day, depending on the day. But I also found that I was writing down the same things over and over again. So then I would start to be like, today I got to write 10 things. And it wouldn't be as simple as these leather pants finally fit me again and look really cute, or the sky is blue and the sun is out because it
Yeah.
just snowed and was horrible. But that was it. I tried to start to make it more happy because also in my job, I hate to say this, but my job started, and we're going to talk about that because you talk about curating your job and job crafting. My job started because I got angry. The organization I founded
Mhm.
started because I was angry people weren't being helped to adopt children and certain people were being left out, which is how my advocacy work started. And sometimes people say to me, this is my question to you. They go, "You're still angry." And I'm like, I think you're confusing anger for
Mhm.
passion. How do you feel about that? Because then I do take a step back and I'm like, I don't want people to think I'm angry. I'm
Yeah.
fighting the good fight. I'm trying to make a difference. But yeah, I was angry that no one was paying attention to certain groups of people.
Yeah. I think anger can be a nice spark that can cause you to take action, that can be your motivation, your jolt, your lightning bolt to take action. But you certainly don't want to live in a place of anger.
Yeah.
Anger for me is emotion I don't love to sit with too long, can be very consuming. And I think there are so many injustices and so
Yeah.
many tough things in the world right now that, of course, we have to allow ourselves to feel and be angry, but let that be a spark and a motivator,
Yeah.
and then take positive action and let that help quiet some of the anger.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you, I'm not a total basket case. Just some days I'm a basket case, but I have been doing that is that in this world, I bring light through our work and we bring goodness and happy
Yeah.
stories. So I have done that, but it is interesting to read your book and I try to be as self-aware as I can. And your book sometimes, for those of you who I really do think you should all go on Amazon and order this. It's called Your Fully Charged Life because it does make you look at yourself. And I think you can only really grow and progress if you address the ugly parts as well as the
Yeah.
parts that are great and working and shiny.
And the thing is too, is like I'm a different person 5 years later than when I
Yeah.
wrote the book.
Yeah.
We're constantly evolving. And I think being self-aware of what makes you tick
Yeah.
is really helpful.
Are you
But those
gonna do
things
a
are big.
volume 2?
I have another book in me, but it won't be like a sequel.
Okay.
I have some other things I'm wanting to write about. I started writing a weekly fully charged minute newsletter on Substack that I drop every Monday at 8:37 a.m.
Oh
And
my
it's
gosh, love it.
really gotten me like writing and expressing again in a way that's just for me, which I truly love versus thinking about, okay, like the publisher is going to want this or is it going to
Right.
sell? I'm just writing to write right now, seeing where my passion lands.
That's great. I know all of your fans will be waiting for that announcement and counting down the moments for the pre-order. But let's talk about we mentioned the job crafting. I don't know if I think you're younger than I am, but I am 55. And so I am right smack in the middle of my kids are a little younger because I had babies late because of the whole challenge
Mhm.
there. So most of my friends are they've graduated from college or they're
Oh, wow.
almost through college and they're empty nesters and maybe they still work, but they're going to be empty nesters or they didn't work while they were being full-time moms and now they got to go back
Yeah.
getting stuck in the middle and whether it's a combination of your personal life or your career. Talk about this crafting that could be
Mhm.
helpful to people listening because I think a lot of my friends that will be listening and possibly people that will tune in because of you I think this is a big issue right now, and it goes in line with the list of things
Sure.
people don't talk about. They don't give us
Yeah.
heads up. Come mid-50s, you might have a little bit of a crisis,
Yeah.
existential crisis on
So
who you are.
yeah, I'm 50. My kids are 15, 14, and 12. And the media industry is changing so dramatically. The magazine business is not what it was 30 years ago when I started. I talk a lot about job crafting. I like to give this example. My first job was at the Star Ledger. Was a newspaper in New Jersey, and I was 18 years old and I was hired as a cub reporter. So my job was to cover the courts, cover fires, cover local crime, really just like nuts and bolts reporting. I did that job, right? You have to do the job you're given. But in the same vein, I also started to do the job I wanted on my own time. Yes, I filed my stories and I covered that really boring cat stuck in a tree story, blah, blah, blah. And then on my own time, I began doing what excited me, what ignited passion and fire in me, and that was telling other people's stories. So I would file my routine stories, and then I would seek out an interesting person in the community and I would write a profile. I would rope in the photographer to come take the picture. And my first story was about a woman in town who was in the Guinness Book of World Records for her magnet collection. And to me, that was like in the Guinness Book of Records, like you have a zillion magnets on your refrigerator. And I went to her place, interviewed her, brought along the photographer and like the magnetic personality in Somerville, New Jersey. And I brought it to my editor and was like, hey, listen, in the Sunday Style section, I think there could be a fit for this profile. And I brought a solution to my boss, not a problem, not I want to do
Yeah.
this. No, I did this. And if you have a fit for it, awesome. Here's this neatly tied in a bow package, right?
And you
And it
didn't have the option of put it online, create your own website or
no,
blog. Like this
no,
was the
no,
day
there
where it
was
was
none of that.
newspaper or nothing. Yeah,
Exactly. And couple weeks later, I got my break and they
it's
put the
amazing.
profile in the Sunday paper. And the next thing I know, I was the Sunday Styles lifestyle reporter and writing all of these profiles. But the advice applies across any facet, right? You have to do the job you're given. But you can also start to do the job you want.
I love
The
that.
job you're given is non-negotiable, but start to do the job you want. And the job you want is going to excite passion. It's going to feel exciting. It may even feel scary, but you need to start before you're ready while also doing the job you're given. And then you don't ask people for help. You provide solutions to
Yeah.
the problems you're anticipating they must have. That is always, I have never gone to someone being like, I really wish I could do this. I go to someone and I say, it happened to me again then when I was at YM Magazine. I went into my editor in chief and I said, I don't know if you wrote the cover lines for the October issue yet, but here, I've got these for you. The next thing I know, I was writing quizzes and I was named a contributing editor when I was 19 years old. But that's because I was anticipating the problems of the job,
Yeah.
providing a solution, and doing the job I was given. Because the job you're given is never negotiable. That's like you have to do that. But then look for opportunity to begin to do the job you want.
It's so interesting because I'm the oldest of 5 kids. It was a lot of fun, was insane at most points, and there's a big age group drop between the 5 of us, but because of that, my dad's famous line, and he's now gone, but was, "You are not allowed to complain without offering a possible solution."
Exactly.
It wasn't that your possible solution had to be perfect. It was that he just couldn't listen to 5 of us going wah, 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 wah
Mm,
about nothing. So we had
yeah.
to think twice before we brought the complaint to the table. And I will never forget when I was giving a speech about Help Us Adopt, I told my parents they had to show up. And that meant they had to leave Philadelphia and come to New York for a nighttime event that they really didn't want to come to because they were older and it wasn't their thing. And I go, you have to come hear my speech because that's what I said I did with Help Us Adopt. I said, I found myself complaining so much that no one was getting this help that I finally had to take
Yeah.
that piece I learned from growing up and say, all right, what the hell? If I were to make something magical, what would it look like? And that was the business plan. And I am very grateful for that skill set. And it really is true. But I've never heard it told the way you're saying it. And I love that advice for people because every job, regardless of where you are in your career, I'm sure you have some things on your list that you don't love. I have some things on my list that I don't love. It comes with the territory, and you
Yeah.
have to do the job you're given. But to then anticipate the
Forgiveness.
problems,
Yeah.
it's
I mean,
great.
my daughter scoops ice cream at an ice cream shop. Does she want to scoop ice cream for the rest of her life? No. But could she start the Instagram account for that ice cream shop? Could she start to create videos and social media and reels and use her expertise to bring value to the job she's
Yeah.
given, to the job she
And
has?
start to think about what's next after she has this
Exactly.
job. Like it's just great to talk about do the job you're given, but also look for the job you want. And that's
Well,
really an
it's not, it's
interesting
start to do the job you want.
start
Because
to do the job.
there's always opportunity.
Especially now with Instagram, you can
Oh,
create anything.
exactly.
You can create anything, and I love that. Okay, so let's talk about your career for a moment because you had a pretty good gig at Good Housekeeping. Like that's how we met. We met
Yeah.
because we had a mutual friend who was an adoptee, and she
Mhm.
shared my story with you. And I came down. It was back in the day when you could walk into a magazine office and you gave me a tour. And I always loved seeing the lab where you guys did all the
Mhm.
testing for the Good
Yeah.
Housekeeping seal. Like it's a real science there.
Yeah.
It's a real thing. And I loved that and was so grateful for your time. And then you were hired to modernize an icon
Yep.
and talk about that. Women's Day is an icon in the
Yeah.
magazine industry.
So that was pretty wild because I was the executive editor of Good Housekeeping for 7 years. I had come from Self Magazine, where I was the deputy editor for 10 years. And before that, I was at Cosmo. I was one of the founders of Teen People, worked at YM early in my career. And I was given the job at Women's Day in March 2020 on a Friday, and the world
I
shut
do
down over the
remember this
weekend.
actually. Yeah.
Like, the world's literally shut down over the weekend, and I reported for duty from my kitchen table remotely on Monday and was like, "Oh my goodness, like, I need to reinvent this magazine. I need to find a team all from my kitchen table." And, like, this
Right.
was a point, like, I didn't have a home office. Zoom didn't
No, we
exist.
thought it
Like,
was 2 weeks. 2 weeks,
was
we all
it
thought.
was it was surreal, and I was finishing my book because my book was due in April
Okay.
2020, and it came out in February. I have to always look at my sign, 2021, but it was a very surreal undertaking. That said, it was pretty fun, right? I was giving this magazine that's 100 years old and said, like, "Breathe some life into it and re-energize it, make it special." And I created the magazine that I needed in that moment, which was something that prioritized positivity and gave people reasons to celebrate and reasons to put joy on the calendar. 6 years later, it's a really happy magazine.
Yeah, I was so lucky enough to be included in your first issue of the year for my work with Help Us Adopt. And some other people that I know were also included in that issue. And I was paying a lot of attention to all the posts that you were getting. And we were all tagging each other and congratulating each other. And I really sat back and thought, this is a woman who is so true to championing other women. Like, I don't even think you hesitate to ever share someone's good story because your mission, and if I can be so bold from what I see in my chair, is that you want to flood the world with these strong women's stories to show what one idea can do. And it just takes maybe an angry blonde in New York City to
Yeah.
say, I'm going to change adoption, or maybe our other mutual friend who has me as a mentor on her amazing new female midlife entrepreneur grant organization. And I'm so proud to be a mentor in that group.
Is that Trey? Are you working with Trey?
Trey, she's an adoptee.
Oh,
I met Trey because she's an adoptee, and
oh,
she
that's so
asked me to
cool.
be a mentor on her organization. So I'm watching all
I
these
love that.
stories and I'm thinking to myself, she's not only modernized this vehicle is now something that I don't know exists in any other form championing women like this. Like it's not put on. Like I read these stories you write. So I just want to, in my roundabout way, say thank you because so many women say, oh, I support women, but they don't. They
That's why I
don't.
get emotional because I think so many women don't, and it really pisses me off.
There's room for everybody. And
I
even if you're
know.
in the same category,
Yeah.
you're not doing it the same way,
I think people
you
don't
know?
realize that. And so back to like what I realized when I was a cub reporter at 18 years old at the Star Ledger is I just like to tell people stories. That is what I like to do.
Yeah.
And I don't need to tell my story all the time. I've told my story. I love to tell other people's
Yeah.
stories. And I love to be a champion for other women. That is my guts, right? Like my guts is giving people a voice, giving people 15 minutes, giving people that little bit of exposure that could really boost their platform, their career, help take their small business off the ground. And I just wish more people would come to that party. I always like to say, like, real queens fix each other's
Yeah.
crowns without even telling the other person it was broken. Like, just be that support, that light for someone else. And I haven't always received that from other women. I remember when my book came out, I was like wildly disappointed by some of the people who did not show up
The
for me.
silence is deafening when you
Yeah.
have your moments because it's very
Yeah.
obvious who is not clapping, and
Yeah.
it's hard
Yeah.
to swallow because then some strangers stop you and they're like, "You changed my life." And I'm like, "That's
Yeah.
the moment. That's the game
Yeah.
changer."
Yeah, I've definitely felt that because I've spent 30 years in media. So I've really had the privilege of celebrating
Yeah.
so many people on so many platforms, from like giving them a magazine cover to a moment on the Today Show. And it really did shake me a little bit to be like, I cannot believe that I'm asking for help and you're not showing up for me. It was devastating in some moments. But then I also realized, like, that's what I'm going to focus on
Yeah.
versus the amazing people who did truly have my back and show up for me.
Yeah. There's that graphic that, again, I'm not taking this in religion direction, but this is what it says. It like said, God noticed who was cheering you on. They were silent, so he sent you strangers. Or I'm totally butchering that quote, but it's true sometimes
Yeah.
is that the people right around you aren't, that's not their moment. So strangers come into your life and it becomes their moment. And
It's so wild.
it's really
Yeah.
interesting.
So taking over Women's Day, that has been the people that whose stories I get to tell, the businesses I get to celebrate. That means so much to me. You see, I get teary. That's my why.
We had a grant recipient reunion. We do a Zoom family reunion like every quarter, and we had it last night. And a woman shared her story who we gave an adoption grant to, and she started crying and turned her camera off. And I was like, "You don't have to turn your camera off," as I reached for the Kleenex because I'm like, because now I'm crying too. And there's 35 people on this screen, but it's like
Yeah.
these moments are real, and all of our pain is
Yeah.
real. And we get each other through these
Yes. And
moments. And I cry all the time. Like,
I do too. I have like a big brain, I think. There's some meme about people who cry easily now that it's like our brains are just wired differently.
I don't know. It's all so interesting about the help and the sharing of the stories. And people say to me when they see a full page in Women's Day and they're like, "Oh, that must make your ego feel good." And I'm like, "Okay, so let's be honest. I don't need anybody to be looking at me saying,
Yeah.
'Here I am.' I go, we do these stories because we know we haven't tipped the iceberg at who needs our help. And we know that they're especially like single women. Last night, we heard from one who is not Christian and not married. And most adoption land is Christian and requires you to be a married couple. And I'm so grateful she found us and we were able to help her. And that's why we do those stories is not look at me, it's get the story out there because who can we help?
Yeah.
Who's going to
And
see
Women's
this
Day has like a
that we can
vast,
help?
yeah, it's 3.4 million women and they're all over the country. It's not just like New York and LA. Like
Yeah.
it's a big audience. So it's meaningful.
And that's always the driving force. I think I said the same thing to you when I met you at Good Housekeeping. You were like, "Why do you want to be in Good Housekeeping?" I said, "Because there's someone who needs our help who reads your magazine."
Yeah.
And I think that was the moment you were like, "Oh, maybe I'll tell this story now," because it wasn't a self-serving thing. It really is who is gonna find out about us who's sitting there thinking, "I can't be a mom. I'll never get to be there." And
Yeah,
so thank you for championing women
of
and
course.
sharing our stories because also hopefully someone will read it and go, "I have an idea too." And if they can do it, I can do it. And that's what it's all about. Now let's talk about motherhood because not easy, period. You have 3 kids, they're all still
Mm.
young. You have a big job and you seem to do it seamlessly, but we all know because we all seem to do it seamlessly that behind the scenes, it might not always be perfect. And tell us how you do the balance. Like, how, you really are present in your kids' lives
Oh,
a
yeah. I
lot,
mean,
and you're present in your job. So, how do you balance the two?
the pandemic gave me a lot of gifts, right? Like, I'm in New Jersey. I don't commute to New York 5 days a week anymore. I don't have to stay at the office till 11 o'clock at night to get a cover out to the printer. It was like, oh my gosh, technology works. Like, somehow we suddenly learned that a lot of things can be done remotely. We used to stay in the office till every page
Yeah.
went to the printer. That was bonkers. Like, I can go and have dinner with my family and then log back on, make sure the colors are right, everything go and
Yeah.
ship it from my home office. Like that was a game changer for me. It
Yeah.
really changed my life in so many positive ways. I also have a very supportive partner. My husband and I really are a team. We're a team in carpool, we're a team in cooking, we're a team in the home. We are Team Murphy. And I really would struggle to do this without such a present partner
Yeah.
because I do work not only the magazine, but I do speaking and I do television. I have many jobs.
Yeah.
And without a supportive partner, nothing would be possible.
And that's great because he really lets you be you. From what I can see, what I watch online, which is so cool. And you have your writing too, which is
Yeah.
writing is time consuming. Everybody thinks it's so easy. You have an idea, but if you really sit down to write something, it is very difficult to write.
See, that's why I'm loving Substack because it's just like little bites. Writing a book takes
Yeah.
years. I
Yeah.
mean, and that's very labor intensive, but having one thought and flushing it out is easy. I'm like one of those people. I said to my husband yesterday, I said, I think all these chia seeds I'm eating in my smoothie in the morning have made me more creative because I can't stop writing. But I think it's just that I've been writing more, so now I can't
Yeah.
stop writing.
Let's talk about kids for a minute. I have said to my children, I'm sorry, this is the time that you're a teenager because we've had some things happen in our world. And I'm not just talking politics, I'm talking everything that happens in our world, every earthquake, every fire, every horrible thing that happens around the globe because of social media. It goes right into their phones, right into their brains in a way that it didn't for us. And these
Yeah.
problems may have existed back when we were growing up, but we didn't have this hotline to the instant news. And then we had COVID, which was hard for some kids, really for one of my kids, really awful. And for one of my kids, okay. How do you use your philosophy of this yay in the day to help kids through this? And not just your own, but you
Yeah.
could give
Yeah.
advice to all of us who are
Yeah.
navigating this space and taking their phones away. When people say that to me, it's not the option. This is their world. This is technology. And for me in New York City, they can't go out on their own without a phone. That's impossible in New York City for me. So
Yeah.
we have to make it work.
Well, I always go back to this analogy of you have to put on your own oxygen mask first. So, the most important thing is to make sure that you're a good mom model for your children, that you are taking care of yourself, that you are mentally strong and well, and you have your oxygen mask on first, because we can be nothing to our children if we are not everything to ourselves. And I think a lot of times women are like, oh, self care is selfish. No, it's
Mhm.
self-preservation, and it's really important. Like, your kids know when you're miserable. They know when you don't like yourself. They know when you're struggling. So, like, get this right so that you can be that good mom model, that mom mirror to them. I think happy mom, happy kids. I think that's
Yeah.
fundamental. I don't preach to my kids about anything. They know I'm a self-help author. They know I live a certain philosophy, but I'm never shoving that down their throat. Try to behave in a way that they understand my values without me trying to force feed anything to them. I think the biggest thing with parenting is keeping kids accountable, making sure
Mhm.
there's repercussions, making sure your word means something, that your word is bond, that there's no empty threats, and being as present as possible and asking lots of questions. We now are able to have dinner together more on more nights than not, and that has been so important to me. I love Big Life Journal. They have these really fun family cards that are conversation starters,
Mhm.
and I often kind of will go around the table and we'll use those, or we'll go around and give a yay for the day. But
Yeah.
it's really just about getting your kids talking, knowing they can trust you, knowing that you are there without judgment, that you are the safe zone. And the news, the media, the
Yeah.
phones is it's tough. I do think when you take them away, you sort of unplug them socially. My boys are playing video games with their cousins 40 minutes away, but like they're really bonded in those moments. And I love hearing my nephew's voice
Yeah.
over the whatever game. I don't know
Yeah.
what the hell games they're playing, whatever.
I know.
But it's how
I
they
thought there was thunder outside last night, and I was in the kitchen, and my daughter Jane's room attaches to the kitchen, and I knocked on her door. I go, "Are you playing a game, or is there thunder now after this snowstorm? What is going on?" She's like, "Oh, mom, you're so embarrassing. I'm playing a game." But it did sound like thunder. I didn't know. I always tell people, I'm like, they have a front row seat to what I do.
yeah.
And so I have to be very aware that every time I lose my, you know what, over something stupid, I have to go, not explain myself, but explain myself and say, listen,
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. I lost my cool. I had a really bad day and I didn't want to come home to the fact that the dog threw up on the couch. I didn't want to do that. But I try to tell them, like, if you had seen the throw up, you could have given me a heads up before I.
But I think that's it too, is like when you do lose your cool or you do make a mistake, like owning it,
Yeah,
and showing
own
them
it.
that you're
That's it.
human. Or if you get upset, then recover. Show them it's okay to be sad or it's okay to be angry, but recover
Yeah.
and apologize if necessary.
Exactly, exactly. Okay, we have time for one more question. I have stickies in the book, so I could ask you a question about the sticky, but is there something in the book that's like your favorite part that I didn't ask you about?
Not really. So it's funny to me because there's so much in the book. And I always say to people, like, roll your eyes at whatever doesn't resonate
Right.
and then let me know what sticks. And
Yeah.
it's very interesting because so many different things stick for different people in different moments and different times. And if you read it now versus 6 months from now, you might be like, oh, this is the thing. So
Well, I
I
have a
was,
thing then. I
okay,
have
let's
a
hear it.
thing. I have a personal issue. I should lie down on the couch with toxic positivity.
Yeah.
Because I want to be not the angry hothead that I sometimes am, and I really wanna believe that I can change and see the yay in the moment, but when someone comes to me and says, "Everything's gonna be fine. Everything's gonna be fine," and my whole thing is sometimes it's not, and in my case, my thing that wasn't was having biological children and being pregnant. It turns out it was the greatest thing that ever happened to me.
Yeah.
And my girls through adoption and their birth families are amazing in ways I never expected. And then I have help us adopt. But in the moment, I didn't appreciate the just blind, it'll be fine, it'll be fine. Because sometimes
Yeah.
it's a redirecting moment. So, how should we deal with the positive? And again, if someone wants to be that toxic positivity and that's what is their deal and makes them whole, then how do we
Yeah.
walk amongst each other, right?
So
Because
it's funny.
I find it very difficult to navigate that because I
I
think I'm a realist.
This week's Substack for me was about the worst phrase in the English language, and that is everything happens for a reason. My mom went through a something recently where her pipes froze, she lost her house, and if one more person says everything happens for a reason, I'm going to punch him in the face for her.
Yeah.
I think sometimes people are so uncomfortable with feelings that they offer these platitudes without meaning to do so much harm. God has a plan, or
Yeah.
everything happens for a reason, or there's the silver lining. It's people often just vomit these platitudes because they're uncomfortable with the feelings. But they think the best thing we can do for anyone is to acknowledge what sucks, right? I am so sorry you are going through that. How can I help? Or this must be really hard for you. Tell me about it. How are you really? This sounds scary. Like when we can just be that a little bit vulnerable and not offer bullshit platitudes, not put the Pollyanna, sugarcoating on it. I kind of talk through this process of acknowledge, accept, take action. We have to acknowledge that something is really hard and that there's no good in this and it's really hard. And then we have to accept it, right? This is what happened. We can't change it. Now we can take action, but it's acknowledge, accept, take action.
It's great advice. And there's so much going on. Everybody has so much on their plate. And I lost my dad 2 years ago. And one of the things that happened when that happened is to all my friends who came before me in line, I said to them, I have to apologize to you. And they're like, why?
Yeah.
And I go, you didn't tell me how hard this was. I didn't show up for you properly. I had no idea. I thought it was going to be like losing a grandparent, like when you're like, they lived a good life and whatever. I said, I'm a little mad at you because you didn't tell me how much pain you were in and I didn't show up. And now that I'm here, now I want to tell people, prepare yourself
Yeah.
more than you ever thought you could because there's nothing like losing a parent. And now when I'm on the back end and people are learning this for the first time, I now say there's nothing I can say to help you here except I know what it feels like. There are no words that can change this pain for you
Mhm.
right now. And I think sometimes that's okay to admit that there's no solution, but I'm here. I see you.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm watching you because you're right. No one gave us a class in these are the 50 things no one wants to talk about. And here's how you should talk about
Yeah.
them.
I was 39 when my dad died. So in that moment, most of my friends hadn't been through anything like that. And he was pancreatic cancer, gone in 4 months. And my husband lost his dad. He was only 20. It's like you become a part of this club. And I have had so many people subsequently come back to me and be like, wow, oh my
No idea.
gosh,
Yeah.
that must have been so hard with kids who were 5, 3, and 2.
Yeah.
It was pretty brutal.
Thank you for being so real and for sharing. Again, it's called Your Fully Charged Life. Even if you are listening to this and you've followed Meaghan for years and you've read this book, you might want to pick it up again because, as she said, you become a different person and you read things differently. I loved reading it the second time. I'm full of stickies. So there it is. There's your proof. I was paying attention and really loved it. Thank you so much for being on. And where would anybody find you who wants to connect, who
Sure.
wants to know more about what you're doing, who maybe wants to subscribe to your Substack?
The easiest all-inclusive place would be go to my website, which is Meaghan, Meaghan V Murphy.com. There's a link to my Substack, to buy my book, to my social media. Everything's kind of on MeaghanBMurphy.com.
Amazing. You really do talk to people online. So it's great.
Yeah.
It's great. 30 Seconds with Becky Fawcett. So, one of the things Meaghan talked about was finding the yay in the day. And I know that all rhymes and sounds very cheery. Some days it's harder to do than others. 2 years ago, or maybe a year plus ago, we doubled the size of helpusadopt.org. We went from $2 million to $4 million in 1 year. That's a big jump. That brings a lot of change. People don't like change. And as an entrepreneur, I know that people like a steady ship. And when you do a big jump like that, there's nothing steady about growth and quick growth. There's nothing steady about building an organization sometimes because the next step makes some people uncomfortable. So, in the last year plus, I've hit a couple rocky roads and I'm good. I'm good. But some almost knocked me over. I had to sit back and say, and my inner circle knows this has come to teach me something. And I knew that. And when I can step out of the day that is making me so unhappy and so angry and so irritated as to the actual thing that happened, I really look at the why. And I look at the why now. Why is this happening now? And then I take it in a different direction. And guess what? I'm stronger than ever. So's the organization. 30 Seconds with Becky Fawcett. Thank you all for listening to the Fawcett Report today. I'm so glad you were here. And I hope, thanks to my guests, you see the world a little differently today and possibly use your voice to make a difference. You can follow the Fawcett Report on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. And you can message me at any of those platforms and I will respond as long as you aren't mean, because I don't do mean. You can disagree with me, but you cannot be mean. Finally, if you're curious about my adoption advocacy and family building work through helpusadopt.org, you can find us on Instagram, Facebook, as well as through the website. Thank you so much. I'll see you next time.